In this video, we're going to insert partitions using the insprt insert partition command. We're going to move vertices using a screen plane. We're going to add partitions to an existing mesh, and then add partitions to extend the block mesh from its sides. Then we will move collapsed partitions using the MB command, use attach to move the mesh, and use the PB command to move the mesh blocks.
So I'll start TrueGrid. I'll create a part. So here's my part. It has 3 partitions in the I, J, and K direction. Now, I will first show you how one goes about adding a partition in the middle someplace. But to do that, I think it's more dramatic if I change the shape just a little bit. So I'll move that vertex up to there, give that some shape. And maybe I'll move this one over to here and here, give that some shape. And also maybe move this one this direction and this one in this direction, so that we've got a little bit of some geometry to toy with. Now let's suppose I wanted to put a partition between 1 and 2 in the I direction. That would be between this partition and this one. I'll highlight them. Now I've got 10 elements here. So I'll put one right in the middle in the I direction. Now you have a choice when you want to specify where to put it. You need to choose a partition either on the low end or the high end of that interval. Now if you choose to put the partition with respect to the low end, then you're going to move to the right. If you're going to put it before the second partition, then you're putting it to the left. Let's look at that command. Now we'll be doing regular partitions, not shell partitions. That's a specialty, but only works when you're building shell parts. So we'll use the regular partition, and we're going to put it in the I direction. So we click on I partition, and I'm going to start by choosing the lower end partition. That would be number 1. And I'm going to put a partition 5 elements to the right of number 1. So if we count here, we'll get 2, 4, 5. So this is going to become a new partition right here, this mesh line. So I'll type in to the right and 5 elements. So you see that partition right here. Remember before I had partitions 1 and 2 highlighted, so 2 has become now the new partition. If I want to get back the original 2, I would have to turn this off, turn that one on. In this case, the new partition, it has been adjusted in such a fashion that basically that slice in the mesh has not changed its shape at all. This node is exactly where it was before I added the partition. The same is true here, all the way down, and all the way around, and through the interior. Now suppose that I wanted to make a new partition, starting at 4, and going to the left, decreasing the index numbering. Let's say 3 elements instead of 5. Insert partition, regular, in the I direction. But this time we're going to go to the left of our parent index. So I click on to the left, and it'll be partition number 4. And we're going to go 3 elements to the left. And there it is. And so to highlight all of our partitions in the I direction, you can see where they are. Actually, it's probably more interesting if I go to Display List, Region, and Show Only. And then I'll hit F2 to remove the highlighting so you can see the different slices in the mesh and how they have maintained their shape before the partition was inserted. Up until now, I've always selected a mesh line or face and turned it into a partition. Now I'm going to add some beyond partition 5. In other words, I'm going to go to the right of partition 5. Regular in the I direction to the right-hand side of 5, and let's do 5 elements. Now you'll notice that we have an additional partition sitting right here, but it doesn't look like there's anything here that's added on. And that's because this new partition did not have a shape. And so it adopted the shape of the parent. In other words, it is collapsed to a 0 thickness. If you don't have initial coordinates already assigned, then what do you use? So it's been collapsed down. Now what we can do here is move points. We have the face, well, we have it. Let's select this face now. We're going to move this face, which is in the same location. And we're going to move it as a rigid body, but only in the X direction. Now, one way to do that is with the mouse, and we come over here and we do a click and drag, and so it's now going to move that face as a rigid body, and now we have thickness. Basically, we used an attach. We changed the initial coordinates in the X direction. That's really what attach does, is it changes the initial coordinates of part of the mesh. And in this case, it changed the X coordinate of I face number 6. The MB command means you're moving a block. In this case, it was a face. When we say block, sometimes we just mean the generic term for a block. It could be any region, but in this case, we moved a face, and that's what MB stands for. And then, of course, the I on this command means it's an index progression instead of a region. Now, the similar thing can be done at the beginning. So if I want to highlight or select the first partition and then add a partition to the left or to the lower end, then I want to choose go to the left. So it's insert partition, regular, in the I direction, on the left-hand side of 1. So you see, though, this one and the previous one are very special in the sense that they're actually adding more elements to the mesh, more blocks to the mesh. And this time I'll go 3 elements to the left. And once again, it's the same shape as the parent. And so to give it a distinct position in space instead of the same one as the parent, I'm going to move it as a rigid body, but I'll show you a different way because there are multiple ways to do just about anything in TrueGrid. Now in the mesh menu, you can see the MBI command right here that moves a block. Well, there's an MB command as well, and it does exactly the same thing. The only difference is this one uses an index progression. This one uses a region to identify the portion of the mesh that this command is applied to. So now I'm going to issue a move command with the mouse and the menus and the dialog. So I've selected the MB command. I hit F1 to enter my selection, and then I indicate how I want this moved. In this case, I think what I'll do is I will move it in the X and the Y. So in the X, I'm going to move it a -2. And in the Y, I'm going to move it a -1 and execute and quit. And when I redraw, it has made a drastic change to that region, this new region of the mesh. It was moved as a rigid body to a new location. Now, both of these commands are commands that can be generated by using attach. And I showed you one way, use the mouse and move points, and another way was to go to the menus. Now there's another command that allows you to move the mesh around, and it's right next to the MB command, and it's the PB command. Well, the PA is very similar, but it only moves a single vertex, where PB, you can choose any object that you can select as a region. So for example, if I wanted to change the coordinates in the Y direction for this face that's highlighted, I could use the PB command, select F1, and move it in the Y direction, positive 0.5. Well, that was pretty radical. I think I'm going to undo that. But there's another way that I can change this, and that is to say I only want to change the X coordinate. And I'm going to use the pick feature to change the X coordinate. So I turn off Y. It's only the X coordinate that's going to be used in this attach. And so I select a node. That's one way of doing it. And I want this face to be moved so that all of the X coordinates have this coordinate. So I've selected the face, I've selected some form of geometry, and I click on Attach. Now notice up here that it created the PB command, just as I did using dialog. So you have two choices, basically. You can use the attach to move things around, or you can use the dialog. And that's true for all of the movement commands, all of the commands that are associated with attach.